Mariana ran down the street, waving and smiling at the world because today was her first day at the restaurant. She had searched so hard for this job, and finally, luck was on her side. Even if it was just as a dishwasher, there was nothing to fear. An official job meant she could take medical leave if her son got sick, and the stable salary was a relief for her nearly empty wallet. However, her excitement disappeared the moment she crossed the restaurant's threshold. The contrast between the beautiful guest hall and the kitchen was enormous. A mountain of dirty dishes awaited her, the floor was filthy, grease drips, and rushed waiters completely disoriented her. She hesitated at the door until a stern-looking manager noticed her and shouted, "Are you the new dishwasher?" Mariana nodded, and the man said sternly, "Why are you so late?" "Starting tomorrow, work begins at 7 a.m. Don't just stand there, change quickly and get to work, and no slacking." She quickly went to the utility room, put on a stained apron, a cap, and long yellow gloves. From that moment, hell began. She spent entire days washing and scrubbing pots until they shone and reloading the dishwasher. Her feet hurt and were swollen. The experienced staff often mocked her, saying, "Careful not to wear yourself out too much, like Cinderella. You might run away tomorrow. Get used to it, the work here is tough. Stronger women than you didn't last a week. You won't last long." Mariana remained silent, diligently working even as her strength waned. She even fell asleep on the bus ride home, her eyes closing from exhaustion. Mariana looked sadly at her swollen hands. The delicate manicure she had done yesterday was now ruined, and this was just the first day. However, some generous tips at the end of the shift brought some joy. Mariana bought bread, milk for porridge, and sweets for her son, and picked him up from daycare. Fabio ran happily to his mother, chattering the whole way. That's right," as she thought, "I need to get used to it. At least we won't go hungry and we'll pay the rent on time. We won't always be in debt. Life is hard. We have no one to rely on but ourselves." At night, after putting her son to bed and reading him a story, Mariana stayed up for a long time, trying to ease the pain in her aching legs, reflecting on her life. Mariana's childhood was far from happy. Raised by a single mother on a thin clerk's salary, they lived frugally. She never had toys or new clothes, always wearing second-hand clothes, a constant source of humiliation at school. Her classmates mocked her while boyfriends received phones, scooters, and skateboards at parties. She only received chocolate and cheap souvenirs, and that name, Mariana, as she hated it. Why did her mother choose that name? There was only one consolation, her studies. Her exceptional memory made her stand out in class, earning praise from teachers. However, her classmates laughed, saying, "You're poor, you can't even afford lunch. There's no point in trying, university is not in your future." Only her mother believed in her, assuring her, "Don't worry, I'm saving money bit by bit. When you graduate, I'll have a decent amount for your education. I want you to be happier than me." Mariana didn't go to the prom because she didn't have a nice dress and didn't want to embarrass herself in front of her classmates. Besides, her mother fell ill. She coughed for a long time, thinking it was bronchitis, trying antibiotics and home remedies, but her condition worsened. She began to eat poorly, always looked tired, and had a persistent fever. When she finally went to the doctor and had an X-ray, the news was devastating. Mariana cried in secret, encouraging her mother. All the money saved for education was spent on treatments. Her mother underwent rounds of chemotherapy, but her body couldn't take it. Her mother passed away. Mariana was shattered, unprepared for the harsh realities of adult and independent life. Dreams of university remained just dreams. She had to learn to survive on her own. It was then that Tiago crossed her path. Mariana helped him prepare his diploma defense, and soon, feelings blossomed between them. Tiago wasn't rich either, so they looked for temporary jobs together, even taking gigs as wallpaper applicators to earn extra money. Although their dates were simple, usually at Mariana's house or in the park, she cherished every flower or cheap lipstick. She loved Tiago sincerely and unconditionally. Tiago, however, was frustrated with his impoverished life. He wanted to escape this routine and often complained, I'm tired of all this. After I get my diploma, what's next? Becoming some engineer at my dad's factory and counting every penny again? I can't earn enough for a fancy car or vacations in the Ivory Coast. I have to find a way to win the lottery. I won't bow down to work until retirement. Mariana planned, Love, please don't be like that. We can't do anything about it. That's life, everyone lives like this. Let's get married, have a child, and raise them together. Isn't that true happiness? We love each other, and that's the most important thing. But Tiago didn't agree. I don't want kids now. Not everyone lives like this. You don't know another life beyond television. I want luxury, expensive cars. Mariana, resigned, talked about a grandfather in a distant village but doubted he was a millionaire. Unexpectedly, she became pregnant. Tiago suggested an abortion due to financial difficulties, but Mariana refused, determined to go through with the pregnancy. As the birth approached, Tiago distanced himself, getting involved with another woman, older and wealthy. I won't recognize the child, it was his choice, said Tiago, leaving money for the birth but abandoning Mariana. Devastated, she confronted Tiago, but he left without a word, leaving her alone. Mariana faced significant financial difficulties. She discovered a talent for sewing, making clothes for her son Fabio and saving as best as she could. When neighbors wondered why she didn't use disposable diapers, she said, I'm against them, they're harmful, hiding the reality of her financial situation. Catherine, a childhood friend, helped as much as she could. Fabio grew up strong and healthy. At 18 months old, Mariana enrolled him in daycare and began searching for a job. She was lucky and got a position as a dishwasher in a restaurant. She endured everything to ensure her son's well-being. At work, Mariana stood out for her impeccable cleanliness, earning everyone's respect. The director, impressed, praised her and offered a bonus. However, the manager was less enthusiastic. Don't praise her too much, she has a small child, he said. If he gets sick, we might need a new employee. The manager, Dario, was universally disliked, and the feeling was mutual. He kept the staff under fear, withheld tips, and often didn't pay bonuses. Mariana's life became a little easier despite the exhaustion. Victoria, always willing to care for Fabio when the daycare was closed or when he was sick, was a great help to the young mother. Mariana didn't need to take medical leave. One day during dinner, Bernardo told his wife Carla about Mariana's hiring. She's a single mother with a small child. At first, I hesitated, thinking she might miss work a lot, but then I felt sorry for her. She's so sweet, open, and attractive, even without makeup. Recently, I did a kitchen inspection and was impressed with her hard work. Carla became tense seeing her husband's enthusiasm for the dishwasher. She feared losing her luxurious lifestyle. Why so much enthusiasm? She thought, deciding to get rid of Mariana to protect her way of life. Mariana worked diligently, unaware that she had become the enemy of the owner's wife. On a workday, Bernardo gathered everyone in the office. He and Carla were there, and he announced that Carla's gold pen had gone missing. I'm going to have to search everyone, Bernardo said. The boss protested, defending his staff, but Bernardo insisted on starting with Mariana. Scared, Mariana emptied her bag. The pen wasn't there. But then, Carla reached into Mariana's pocket, and the pen fell out. You're a thief, Carla exclaimed. Mariana tried to defend herself but was fired. She left crying, without a job or money. Carla further defamed her. The next day, Fabio woke up and found his mother crying in bed. I'll protect you, he said. Mariana smiled through her tears and said they would stay home. Then the doorbell rang. Mariana opened the door to find a distinguished man with glasses and a briefcase. He asked if she was Mariana. She nodded, surprised, while Fabio hid behind her legs. The man entered the hallway, opened the briefcase, and said, My name is Renato, I'm a notary. Your grandfather Carlos left a will before he passed away, stating that, upon his death, his house would be transferred to you. Here are all the property documents. Congratulations, you are now the rightful owner. Mariana was stunned. My grandfather passed away a long time ago. I didn't know anything about this. My mother never communicated with him, and I don't know why. I never saw him. Do you know where he is buried? She asked. The notary replied, Your grandfather passed away about 6 months ago. We've been searching for you for a long time. He gave us a completely different address. He's buried in the city cemetery. Well, I have to go, I have a lot of work. Holding the documents, Mariana reflected on her own negligence, as she was now an adult and could have sought more information about her grandfather. Determined, Mariana planned to visit the house and the grandfather's grave. She checked the route online, it was a 40-minute drive. She left Fabio with the neighbor Victoria and set off, bringing coffee, sandwiches, a flashlight, and even a pocket knife. Upon arriving, Mariana found the house in good condition, though the garden was neglected and the windows were covered. She noticed a well-trodden path and a modern padlock on the gate. Who could be living here now? She wondered. Entering the house, Mariana felt a chill. Everything suggested that someone had been there recently. Following footprints leading to the basement, she heard muffled groans. Overcoming her fear, she descended the stairs and found a man tied up and injured. Oh my God! Who did this to you? Hang on, I have a knife and I'll try to free you, as she said, cutting through the ropes. The man, exhausted, could barely make it up the stairs, but with Mariana's help, they reached the upper floor. She laid him on the couch and called the police and an ambulance. The man, drinking water and eating a sandwich, told his story. My name is Vinicius. I have a small clothing business. My best friend, Gregorio, tried to kill me. He brought me here, beat me, and demanded that I transfer the company to him. When I refused, he went crazy and hit me on the head. I woke up tied up and thought it was the end. I was ready to die, reciting prayers and hoping for a quick death. I knew no one would look for me here because the house seemed abandoned for a long time. I don't know how long I was there. I heard footsteps and tried to call for help, but I barely had the strength. Fortunately, you heard me. Thank you, you're my guardian angel. What's your name? Vinicius asked Mariana, who introduced herself. He took a sip of coffee, turned pale, felt nauseous, and fainted. Mariana searched for a first aid kit, but the ambulance arrived in time, followed by the police. The doctors provided first aid and took Vinicius to the hospital. Mariana went to the police station to report everything and planned to visit Vinicius the next day. The next day, she made soup, bought groceries, and went to visit Vinicius. She was very concerned about him. She entered the hospital room, and Vinicius smiled upon seeing her, looking much better. Hi, I brought soup for you. I've been worried since yesterday, Mariana said. Vinicius thanked her and shared his story. He had grown up in an orphanage with his best friend Gregorio, who later tried to kill him out of envy. Vinicius was adopted by a wealthy couple, became successful in business, but never forgot Gregorio, whom he had hired but was betrayed by. Mariana shared her difficult life story, her fiancé's betrayal, and her recent job loss. Vinicius encouraged her, calling Tiago a fool for trading her for money. He then had an idea. I can bring you a sewing machine and materials to the village. You can sew at home and take care of your child. Start with simple things. If it works out, you can make jackets and children's clothing. What do you think? Mariana thanked him, excited about the proposal. Thank you, Vinicius. This is a way out. I know how to sew. My child is calm and will be fine. We can fix up my grandfather's house together. We'll go there every day. With tears in my eyes, he has been getting sick often. Also, I can rent out the apartment, so I'll have some extra income. Maybe, indeed, everything is for the best. Take care. I'll start moving slowly with my child. Can I come by tomorrow? Vinicius gently took her hand and said softly, You know, Mariana, you're amazing. You don't give up, love your child, and fight for him. You saved me, and I genuinely want to thank you and help you settle into this life. Believe me, the problems are behind us. Everything will be all right. Come by tomorrow with your little one, I want to meet him. Thanks to the unexpected inheritance and the encounter with Vinicius, Mariana's life began to gradually improve. She fixed up the house and moved in with her son. The living conditions were ideal, plenty of firewood, a well with water, a solid stove, and old but sturdy and comfortable furniture. Fabio loved the village, running around the yard and eating sweet raspberries and apples. Mariana soon connected with the neighbors, who were happy the house was no longer empty. Tai, a neighbor, shared many interesting stories about Mariana's grandfather and his family. Carlos was well known throughout the village. He worked in the fields until he was 70. His wife, Magda, died young, and he raised his daughter Maria, alone. Carlos had hoped Maria would live in the village, get married, and have children, but Maria wanted to move to the city after school. Carlos never forgave Maria for returning pregnant and without a husband, and he died alone. Mariana visited her grandfather's grave, tidied it up, and planted flowers, crying and asking for forgiveness for not having visited and not being at the funeral. Tai comforted her, saying that Carlos was probably happy she was living in his house with his great-grandson. Mariana settled in slowly. She and Fabio adopted a dog, which brought a lot of joy. Vinicius recovered and began visiting them frequently. He set up a workspace for Mariana, brought a sewing machine and materials. She was nervous about her first order, but things went well, and soon she received her first payment. Watching Mariana and Vinicius, Tai said, You repeated your mother's fate. It must be hard to raise a child alone, but look, there's a suitor who visits frequently. He's prominent and decent, maybe you'll get along well. Mariana laughed.
Inyo, Tai.
He's just a friend. I saved Vinicius first, and now he's helping me, that's all. I'm not what he needs, with another man's child. But Tai shook her head. Yeah, I've lived long and I'm sure he wouldn't care about you like this if he didn't like you. He's in love, I'm certain. Real men don't mind children from others, but fools even see their own as a burden. So give this suitor a chance. Mariana reflected on Tai's words and began to see Vinicius differently. He often visited them, interacting happily with Fabio, bringing toys and treats, and looking at her with an intense and somewhat sad gaze. In reality, Vinicius also had feelings for Mariana but was convinced that she wasn't what he needed, given that she had another man's child. After all, Tiago had fled from his own child, and now he would raise someone else's? One day, Vinicius arrived very late. Fabio was already asleep. Mariana was finishing sewing a set of bed linens and preparing to go to bed. She was surprised by his visit. She invited him in and started preparing something in the kitchen. You're so late today and look very down. What happened? Do you want to eat? I have chicken soup. Vinicius quietly placed a bottle of brandy, lemons, sausages, cheese, and fruit on the table. Will you drink with me, please? I need this right now. It's been a tough day. They put Gregorio in jail, and I met with him today. You can't imagine how bad I feel right now. Mariana understood everything, brought glasses, sliced the food, and they drank while nibbling on lemons. Vinicius told his story. He asked Gregorio why he had betrayed him and what he had done to offend him. Gregorio responded with words that Vinicius couldn't repeat. Gregorio had harbored resentment since the orphanage when Vinicius was adopted and he was not. Gregorio saw Vinicius's gifts as bribes, although they were given from the heart. Now, Gregorio would face a long prison sentence. Mariana, sitting next to Vinicius, held his hand and said, "You did what you could, Vinicius. You can't change the past, but you can move forward and do your best for the future. I'm here for you, just like you've been there for me." Vinicius looked at Mariana, his eyes filled with gratitude and something deeper. "Thank you, Mariana. You're right. I'll try to put this behind me. And, thank you for being here with me." As the night went on, Mariana and Vinicius grew even closer, sharing their pains and hopes. The connection between them strengthened, paving the way for a new beginning together. Carlos was known throughout the village. He worked the fields until he was 70. His wife, Magda, died early, and he raised their daughter Maria, alone. He hoped she would stay in the village, get married, and have children, but Maria wanted to move to the city after school. Carlos never forgave Maria for coming back pregnant and without a husband. He died alone. Mariana visited her grandfather's grave, tidied it up, and planted flowers. She cried, asking for forgiveness for not having visited and for not being at the funeral. Thais comforted her, saying that Carlos was probably happy she was living in his house with the great-grandson. Mariana settled in slowly. She and her son adopted a dog that brought a lot of joy. Vinicius recovered and began visiting them frequently. He set up a workspace for Mariana, bringing a sewing machine and materials. She was nervous about her first order, but things went well, and she soon received her first payment. Thais, observing Mariana and Vinicius, said, "You repeated your mother's fate. It must be hard raising a child alone, but look, there's a suitor who visits you, prominent and decent. Maybe you'll get along well." Mariana laughed. "Come on, Thais, he's just a friend."
Vinicius.
"I saved him first, and now he's helping me. That's all. I'm not what he needs with a child from another man." But the woman shook her head. "I've lived a long time and I'm sure he wouldn't be so concerned with you if he didn't care about you. He's in love, I'm sure. And the child? Real men aren't intimidated by other people's children, but fools find even their own burdensome. So, give this suitor a chance." Mariana reflected on the woman's words and began to see Vinicius differently. He frequently visited them, interacting cheerfully with Fabio, bringing toys and treats, and looking at her with an intense and slightly sad gaze. In reality, Vinicius also liked Mariana, but he was convinced she wasn't what he needed, having a child from another man. After all, Tiago had run away from his own child, and now he would raise another man's child? Today, Vinicius arrived very late. Fabio was already asleep. Mariana was finishing sewing a set of bed linens and preparing for bed. She was surprised by his visit. She invited him in and started preparing something in the kitchen. "You're so late today and look quite down. What happened? Do you want something to eat? I have chicken soup." Vinicius silently placed a bottle of brandy, lemon, sausages, cheese, and fruit on the table. "Will you drink with me? Please, I need this right now. It's been a difficult day. They put Gregorio in jail, and I met with him today. You can't imagine how bad I feel right now." Mariana understood everything, brought glasses, sliced the food, and they drank while nibbling on lemons. Vinicius told his story. He asked Gregorio why he had betrayed him and what he had done to offend him. Gregorio responded with words Vinicius couldn't repeat. Gregorio had harbored resentment since the orphanage when Vinicius was adopted and he was not. Gregorio saw Vinicius's gifts as bribes, even though they were given with good intentions. Now, Gregorio would face a long prison sentence. They drank a little more, and Mariana got quite drunk since she had never had strong drinks before. Vinicius moved closer, hugged her tightly, and began to kiss her. Mariana felt a turmoil inside. "I love you, dear. I don't want to leave. Can I stay? Please don't send me away. I feel so good with you, and I'm ready to raise Fabio as my own child. Let's try to be a family, if you feel the same way about me. Tell me, do you like me? Tears welled up in Mariana's eyes. She agreed and said softly, I agree. I love you too, I was just afraid to say it. From that day on, Vinicius and Mariana began living together in her grandfather's country house. Surprisingly, Vinicius actually enjoyed being there. The air was fresh, the tranquility and freedom were refreshing, and work wasn't too far away. At night, they would fish together or just sit by the river. They were absolutely happy. It was an ordinary weekend. The family was having breakfast in the kitchen. Fabio was trying to imitate Vinicius in everything. At 8 o'clock, they all had coffee with sandwiches, and Mariana admired her beloved men. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. They heard car sounds from the other side of the yard. Surprised, Mariana went to open the door and was stunned to see Bernardo, the restaurant manager, at her doorstep, holding a bouquet of flowers and a huge cake. He looked nervous and began. Good morning, Mariana. You live quite far, I barely managed to find you. I came to apologize. I admit I didn't understand the situation at the time and fired you without cause. I embarrassed you, you're not to blame for anything. He handed her the bouquet and cake. She invited him in and served aromatic tea. How did you find out? Your wife accused me of stealing. It was a disgrace. Oh, this is my fiancé, Vinicius, and my son Fabio, Mariana introduced them. Bernardo started to explain. After I fired you, I couldn't believe you had stolen the pen. Then the cleaning lady told me she saw my wife throw the pen to you but was afraid to speak up during the scandal. I reviewed the footage, and it was true. Carla admitted everything. It was jealousy. If you want to come back, I would be happy. No one worked as well as you did. Mariana smiled and declined. I now have a job I love. Everything happens for the best. Thank you for coming to apologize. I feel relieved now. Bernardo seemed hesitant to say more. Speak up, you're making me anxious, Mariana urged. Bernardo gathered his courage. Your mother was my first love. We had a passionate romance in our youth. You are my biological daughter. Surprised, Mariana questioned. And where have you been all these years, father? Why did you leave Mom? What do you want now? Bernardo lowered his eyes. I was a terrible father. Your mother and I loved each other, but I was young and my parents were against it. Maria was offended and left. I tried to find her, but she didn't leave an address. I married, divorced, then married Carla, who only wanted my money. I never had children, though I dreamed of it. It's no excuse, but life passed by. Now, Fabio is my real grandson. I would like to take care of him. Please forgive me. Mariana replied. Sorry, I'm not ready to talk about this. I need to think. Bernardo left his business card and said, If you want to get in touch, call me. You and Fabio are the most dear to me. After he left, Mariana broke down in tears, outraged by his attitude. How could he do this? He lived for pleasure while Mom and I lived in poverty. Mom died in my arms, and where was he? I was left alone after the birth, with no support. Where was my father? And now he shows up. Vinicius listened in silence, shaking his head, and responded. Don't be so upset, my love. Yes, your father didn't raise you and wasn't there for you. You're right about that, but look at it from another perspective. You told me yourself that your mother didn't communicate with her father. You never knew your grandfather and regretted it deeply, didn't you? Now you're condemning Fabio to the same fate. Why? Did he do something wrong? Why can't a biological grandfather reach out to his grandson? I'm an orphan myself, raised by adoptive parents. I'm grateful to them, but if my biological mother or father found me now and showed regret, I would forgive them. Your father will answer for his own sins, we don't need to judge him. Try to find the strength to forgive the hurts of your childhood. It will make you feel better. Give your father a second chance. Everyone deserves one. Bernardo seemed very sincere, a decent man in Vinicius's opinion, but of course, the decision was Mariana's. For a week, she wrestled with her thoughts. She remembered her childhood, her beloved mother, looked at Fabio, and her father's remorseful words kept echoing in her mind. Finally, she found the courage to call him. Hi, Dad. I've been thinking, who benefits if we don't communicate? Come visit us. Fabio and I are looking forward to seeing you. Bernardo replied with a trembling voice. Thank you, dear. I'm on my way. Mariana was nervous. She and Vinicius prepared a delicious dinner and told Fabio. Your grandfather will be here soon. He's been looking for us for a long time and wants to be your friend. Fabio was excited and went to wait for him at the gate. When Bernardo arrived, he immediately smiled upon seeing his grandson and handed him a remote control car. Hello, Fabio. I'm your grandfather. I came to visit you. This is a gift from me to you. Let's be friends. They hugged, and Bernardo kissed his grandson's cheek. Mariana approached, smiling and hugging her father. Hello, Dad. Let's go inside. Dinner is ready. Let's get to know each other again. They had an emotional time together, talking a lot. Bernardo bonded with his grandson and with Vinicius. Mariana and Bernardo looked through family photos, crying together as they remembered her mother. Mariana's heart felt lighter, and she was happy that her father had found them. After all, blood ties should be together. Since that day, everyone's lives changed significantly. They became a close-knit family. Bernardo offered Mariana a job as the restaurant manager, but she declined, wanting to dedicate all her time to her son and Vinicius. The grandfather showered his grandson with love, buying many new things, setting up a slide in his room, and taking him to the pool, a place Fabio loved. Vinicius moved in permanently with Mariana. He renovated the house, and soon they got married. Mariana finally found her happiness in her grandfather's home. The house came alive, exuding a special aura of calm and comfort. Vinicius adopted Fabio and genuinely considered him his own son. The little boy began to call Vinicius a dad. One day, the family head took everyone to the city for Fabio's vaccination appointment at the pediatric clinic. The boy was nervous and scared. Mariana tried to calm him, but when their turn came, Fabio held Vinicius's hand and said, I'm going with Dad. I'm not afraid with him. They went into the doctor's office together, and a few minutes later, Vinicius came out holding the child, who wasn't crying. Look, my dear, what a hero our son is. The best. Brave, your dad. He didn't cry. Mariana kissed Fabio and then Vinicius. Meanwhile, one of the electricians working on installing internet cables observed the scene. His eyes were on Mariana, and he examined Vinicius and the boy. It was Tiago, who had returned home from work. His mother was washing dishes, and his father was watching football. Tiago, indignant, exclaimed, Do you know who I saw today? Mariana. Remember her? Everything is perfect for her, a rich husband and a son, my son, who calls another man a dad. Trying to justify leaving Mariana for another woman because of money, now alone and regretting betraying Mariana, Tiago's father responded firmly. You didn't love Mariana, son. I would never have left your mother for anything. Money was always on your mind. Don't blame us for your mistakes. Tiago went to his room, regretting betraying Mariana. Meanwhile, Mariana watched Vinicius lovingly care for Fabio and realized how fortunate she was. He was everything to her, support, strength, her strong shoulder, and the best husband in the world.